They say tough times never last, only tough people do. But at this rate, times are getting the best of us all. The latest price hikes in fuel and food have set off alarms throughout the country. Will consumers be able to keep up with the escalating cost of living? Well, Wayne Duvenage from the organisation Undoing Tax Abuse joins me now to discuss this a little further. Mr. Duvenage, thank you very much for your time here on All Angles. First of all, every time we hear about tariff hikes and at the same time we're not getting these services, you have to I'm not condoning it, but you have to sort of understand some South Africans who give up on paying for things like electricity because they really, especially those who say they really don't have any way to find that money.
Yes, absolutely. And the problem is that we see government at national and local level has this insatiable desire just to keep leaning on citizens and taxpayers and ratepayers, pushing up their prices every year above inflation, and eventually this perfect storm comes home to roost. And that's exactly what's happening on petrol prices, on levies, electricity. We really have had runaway inflation as a result of a government that has not been able to control itself and to stop continuously leaning heavily on citizens. We're the most overtaxed society in the world if you look at the returns we get for our taxes.
And, for instance, Mr. Duvenage, I don't know if you'll be able to advise anybody or advise myself and the viewers on what you've been doing to try and make your money stretch, because at this point, it looks like, the value of your money obviously is becoming less and less, and a lot of us won't be able to survive.
Yeah, look, from a commuting point of view, carpooling, traveling as little as you can, is one of those solutions. Reduce your travel costs, because that is expensive right now. It's changing eating habits. It's where you buy. It's doing everything you can. But I know that people have been doing this already for a number of years, and that belt tightening can only go so far before you have to start skipping meals, before you have to stop paying your creditors and your rates and taxes. And then that creates other spirals. So what we do is call on government now to dig deep themselves, because there doesn't seem to be any desire from a national and a provincial and local government point of view to stop these increases. If you look at it, just vehicle licenses and rates and taxes, every one of these things, when you add it up, it makes it adds a lot of cost to society. So what we are saying, and this is where citizens must come in and start becoming more active and putting pressure on government to say no to these increases. You've had increases well above inflation for far too long now. Government needs to adopt an attitude of zero-based budgeting, clean the slate, get the savings, and so that we don't have to feed this bloated animal, this bloated institution called government that is costing society and this country far too much. It is time they started to tighten their belts and not the citizens.
And we're already seeing people retaliate from Eskom's point of view, right, where workers who have signed, an agreement to say that they will not protest because the company they work for provides an essential service, have gone and done it anyway, defying what they've signed. So what do citizens do? At the end of the day, it looks like there'll end up being some kind of revolt, especially if you see things like an illegal strike like this happening at Eskom.
Yes, and that's a very, very unfortunate. And obviously they're milking the situation. It's almost extortion. They know that the country is on a knife's edge with load shedding. So now to flex their muscles in that regard is just very, very unfortunate. And this is where we call on the unions to play their part and to stop this irresponsible conduct. They do have power in this space, and they can call them out, and they're not doing enough of that. But I think we really have to implore on government to stop the political meddling. It was 3 years ago, I think, that Eskom's leadership was trying to undo the massive increase in staff and headcounts at Eskom without any energy input increase over the last 10 to 15 years. They increased their headcount by 50%. That's a massive cost to Eskom. And when they wanted to start going through a voluntary retrenchment process and to try and trim that headcount, which is costing all of us, now they were tapped on the shoulder by government and said, no, don't do that. Now, this is meddling that has just cost us so much money. We've seen it at SAA, we've seen it at Denel, we've seen it at Transnet. It just doesn't stop. Government needs to change its approach and its attitude towards its citizens. They need to become citizen-centric, and they certainly aren't that in any way.
I think if I got a penny for every time we heard or we said that ourselves, I'd be a millionaire right now. But thank you very much for speaking to me, Mr. Wayne Duvenage from out there.